Okay, here is our new Holley EFI ready fuel tank. It's actually from Tanks Inc. Holley uses them. So as you can see, it's a little different than the factory tank. We have basically our assembly to build our fuel pump assembly. We're going to use the instructions for that. There's our filter sock. Here's our pump. Here's our new hose. It comes from the filler. This is the filler adapter. It goes to the hose. We've got our gaskets for all of our units go in and screw in for both the sitting unit and the fuel pump. We've got our vents right here. Then we've got our instructions. So we're going to read these instructions thoroughly. Okay, the first thing to start off with is they want you to measure, and here's the chart. They want you to measure how far it is, how deep the tank is from this area here to the bottom. And what we've got is right at 7 inches, maybe a little bit more, 7 1/8, a bit more, but pretty damn close. So after you get that measurement, then this table tells you from here, dimension B is the length between the bottom, and you include the gasket, from the bottom of the gasket to the center of the pivot point. And what they're telling you is if it's 7, they want 3 1/2 inches. So what we did, measured, removed our bar, and we have 3 1/2 inches to the center of the pivot point for our float. All right, here's the last part of setting our float up, almost last part. So we've got dimensions A and B. A was the depth of the tank, which is 7 inches. Dimension B was the center, was from the bottom of where it's going to mount to the center of the pivot point here. So it tells you it wants to sit at 3 1/2 inches. We removed our bar. It'll tell you right here. You're not going to need this, I think, for unless you need it for 12-inch or more deep fuel tanks. So we got that dimension established. We've set it to the 3 1/2 inches. Now it tells you right here, this is so nice. They've improved the instructions on this. They want you to have it at 4.2 inches from the bottom of where the float, or where the sitting unit mounts to the fuel tank, to, let's see, yeah, to the bottom, see right here, so from the center of the pivot point to the center of the float. So we set that at 4.2 inches, which was this dimension here, which is the center of the pivot point to the middle of the ball, or the float, excuse me. So I went in and I said, okay, now let's take and see where that's at with the overall measurement of a 7-inch deep fuel tank. And then I set this up so everybody can see and I can measure. So here's the bottom, and it's going to squeeze in a little bit, obviously, but we had right at 7, almost 7 inches. So you get the idea. This is going to squeeze in a little bit. So I may need to, adjust this up just a little bit. But now that tells me, yeah, it's going to go all the way up right here. So see, that's up just a little bit. So I'd still need to make this adjustment for my center. I need to come in just a little bit. Yes, I'm going to cut this. But till then, I've got to get this right. So for it to be all the way full, and for it to be all the way at the bottom, I need to come in just a little bit more to hit that 4.2 inches. So let's make one more adjustment. Okay, just went and verified. I used my calipers this time just to get it as close as I could get it. So we're dead nuts. 4.20 from the center of the screw to the center of the float. There's even a little casting little thing there on the float. So I adjusted that accordingly, and sure enough, if I measure from the bottom of the gasket, I'm right at 7 inches. And that was basically my depth of the tank. So we're gonna go ahead and cut this, I believe, to right here, somewhere in there, and then we're going to install this thing. All right, this is the last part. This is tricky on these Holley float systems. This is where you gotta, they don't even tell you in the directions, but you gotta kind of outsmart it. I already know it's bottomed out. That measurement, I loosened this back up. I already know it was bottomed out to hit the 3 1/2 inches I needed to hit from the bottom of here to, the bottom of here to the center of this pin. It's bottomed out. That's my 3 1/2 inches. Well, I had to loosen this up so it gives me a little room here. So I'm going to put this back in. It took me a bit to fish it back out so I could show everybody. Getting these things out is the biggest pain in the rear, and you're going to have to do the same thing. You have to loosen these up. But this is what you do. You put this float in like this with the big end facing down. Of course, you go in here. Of course, you got your 2 slots. Now that I'm in there, now I'm going to turn it. And there she goes. Actually get to there it is. Okay, now you say, well, you lost your measurement. And I have, but I'll get it back right here. I'm gonna come back, turn this thing around, get my Phillips where it's bottomed out, tighten it back up here. Again, I've got my measurement because bottomed out, it was the 3.5 inches. All right, and there we are. There it is. So now I'm gonna do like they asked. I'm gonna put a little shellac down before I go putting the screws in. Put some shellac down here, and then I'll probably put some shellac down on the other side of this gasket. This is the equivalent of the shellac you're talking about, kind of like the aviation. See, it's the aviation, that's what they mentioned. It's gooey stuff right here. I'm just gonna put some down right here, just a little bit. So we don't want Barry or his family smelling gasoline. Let's just put some down, just like around here, like so, and like so. Okay. Okay, and there it is. I just snugged these up with a screwdriver. I'll obviously go down there with a socket and just kind of tighten them up, but I'd let it settle. And yes, I put the shellac between the gasket and the tank, but not between the sending unit and the gasket. Because if I do have to pull this back up, at least I can get that out. So you saw how we measured everything. Holley actually made it. When I put mine in, they didn't give you this table. I wish they would have. So this really helps it out. And the overall calculation, again, with the 7-inch deep tank, you can see where our float had about 7 inches of travel from where the bottom of the gasket is to the bottom of the tank. So Barry's going to be set up. Unfortunately, I can't build the fuel module because Holley forgot to send us the jacket that goes around our pump. So now I got to call Holley and say, I need this jacket. This jacket's supposed to come with all your fuel modules. And lucky me, I'm probably the one that whoever called in sick that day. You know, we're not doing too good with parts today, I can tell you that. But once we get the fire jacket, we'll go ahead and build the fuel module, and then this bad boy be ready to install. Ford buddies, Ford friends, y'all tell me on this tank, what are the proper fasteners and where do I get them? If not, I'm fine with just using some really nice CAD plated nuts and bolts and lock washers and whatnot, but I really like it to be correct. So y'all tell me what the proper hardware is and what Ford used. If not, I'll use some really good hardware, making sure it's cinched up. But yeah, so hope everybody got something out of this. Sorry we couldn't put our fuel module in because we don't have all our parts. So again, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We're growing, and now we got some Fords. Tomorrow we're gonna make a house call on a really cool car. So tune in tomorrow. We're gonna be driving over to Fort Smith. The guy has a collection of really cool cars. So y'all tune in tomorrow for that. And that car may be coming here pretty soon. So thanks everybody, and y'all have a great Saturday. Okay, just really quick. Basically took the directions. It was very simple. I measured. Always make sure you put your gasket on before you start any of this, because it's very easy to forget this. But measured, we had, I believe it was 7 3/4. The bottom there. Yep, maybe a little bit more than 7 3/4. Measured that. We cut our tube where it would go fully on before we heated it, so it was fully engaged onto the tube of the CPA pump. And then we are almost right there at the bottom. Got a little bit left, but the pickup is right here. So when we go to push this down, this is going to crunch down a little bit. We're going to be pretty darn close, folks. So pretty darn close. And there you have it. There's our completed EFI ready Holley fuel tank for Barry's 66 Mustang. So before we install this, we may just put a blanket down and put it in the trunk for now, but I know Barry is going to want me to order this probably from CJ Pony Parts. There's a perimeter gasket or rubber beam kind of lays down in there for this tank. You don't want this metal to metal. What I read was, I think they use some kind of, I'm not sure what it was, but some kind of tacky stuff that keeps it sealed up. So we're gonna order the right stuff. Plus we're gonna go ahead and order some new fasteners. Jim from Jim's Fastpack. Buddy, I appreciate it. You're right, it looks like just regular sheet metal screws, and that's what they are. But they're rusted and the heads are rounded off. So we're just going to put new screws in it. We're going to put the ones from CJ Pony Parts in it. They're flanged. So we'll get that in here this week. So now our fuel tank is complete, and we'll do a quick video of installing it once we start on the EFI system. But don't forget to tighten your little ferrules here for your electric fuel pump. So this is what's going to turn the fuel pump on right here from the Sniper. And then, of course, we'll reroute the wire for the sending unit here. So this is our sending unit. So it's all gonna be up top side. What's nice about this is, unlike a GM or a Chrysler, a Mopar, if you have any issues, you gotta pull the tank to pull the sending unit or the fuel pump. So the sending unit and the fuel pump, they're right there. That IMV, I wish mine was like that. So I like that design. And then, of course, you've got your return and your send side, and this is the vent right here. So very, very easy. It's a good setup, guys. So thanks for watching. Hope somebody got something out of this EFI ready fuel tank. Thanks, everybody.